Okay, now to the last one. Oh wait, these 5 seconds just to see if there's anything else. If not, we can pause this. Okay, let's pause this and get. mm, let's try with 5 minutes, but if we need more, we can take a pinch more. Although we are half an hour, I don't know if people have like a strict late line at the top, but let's just start. Does anybody wants to start first? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Um, maybe you, Nate.
Yeah, sure. So starting off with just the pre, um, I think we're doing a really good job with the a lot of interest in around the brand and getting partnerships. I think it's really good that we have the Arbitrum sponsorship and the Ocean sponsorship to work off of. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about the pre. Can we keep going with the during and the post?
Yeah, let's make the discussion about all three.
Okay. I think we've got a really good playbook for promoting everything within the round and after the round. I think that post round, I think the TQF is a really strong narrative that we should really lean into some more. Yeah, and that's all I have to add to that.
Anybody wants to jump in?
Yeah, I can jump in. Yeah, I think I would also say um, that it seems that we are getting better at turning the whole running of the rounds into an actual process that can be followed by anyone. So that feels good. Uh, there has been a lot of work put into defining how that looks like in terms of operating the round, but also in terms of marketing. So I think a lot of good steps has been taken on that direction. Another thing that I included here was I think it was really positive to have an advisory group being the ones reviewing the applications, so trying to incorporate more of the TE expertise into the reviewing process. I think we still need to fine tune that and keep building on top of that, but I think it was a really good first attempt. Um, yeah, I mean, uh, I also share everything that Nate mentioned, so I'll just stop right there.
I can go next. Um, it's interesting looking at this. It sounds obvious, but now seeing this laid out in this way, do you see that the core competencies for pre, during, and post are actually pretty different? Like, clearly, during, the key is really comms and events. Like, it's all about engagement. Um, and the pre-round is like a bunch of planning, program management kinds of things, setting things up, getting ready, documenting, you know, yeah, just like making sure that like we're all ready, right? It's a lot of like project management kind of stuff. And then it seems like the last one is more like analytics and processing, like very operations kind of driven processes and steps. Uh, so it's interesting to think about this. Like, I've been thinking of this as like kind of one big thing, but actually the skill sets are pretty different at the different phases. And I think we're getting, God, think about where we were in the first round and the second round. Like we're getting better generally on most of these. So that's good.
Yeah, I think also even if with this being the probably the most complex round by all means, like we had to move chains, we had to engage sponsors and all that. I think it's clear that we have developed just I don't know, I guess enough expertise to keep dealing with this. Of course, it's not perfect, and we could probably do better. But I guess just given the size of the team and all that, I think it's um, doing a really good job. And also, we've been like by you can look at how you want, but we've been the only round of Gitcoin that has always been there and been there on time and all that since they opened the protocol. And that I think that also speaks the work we has been doing. Though it'd be not sure if we can exactly compare that, but it'd be I'm curious to see just to sit down and see like compare metrics between rounds and see if all that work actually is getting us something versus other rounds that may be getting more donations. Who knows? But whatever. Let's jump on to the next question. Stop. 4 minutes for pre-round, and the timer starts now. Okay, this one is over. I see you know ready. Let's wait in bed as well. Okay, I think that's it. Let's go to the next part, and I'm starting the timer now. There's one here in the middle. I'll just move it to one that to this one, and then let's go to the next question. Starting the timer now. Okay, let's take 1 minute to read through the notes and then we discuss. Okay, now 5 minutes to discuss. Maybe you go first, Gideon.
Yeah, lots of really good points here. I would say the big theme that's jumping up in the pre-round is we can get everything pretty much lined up in advance, and we just need to do that. Like, we need to have like timelines that extend, that basically help us map out all of the things that need to be done before the start of the round, with like deadlines and all that kind of stuff in place. That will really help us, and I think that hits on a lot of the things that are showing up here in the pre. I agree also that the criteria, to me, there was, to me, I was questioning, I didn't say anything really at the time, but like I was questioning a handful of the projects that made it through in this round. And it would be good to understand how that happened. So it seems like the criteria, the enforcement of the criteria maybe wasn't clear, or I'm not sure what was happening. So that kind of steps us into the during part. I think, the other piece is we need partnerships to help with the promotion. Right? It can't just be the TEC's Twitter account that's like doing all of the hyping. Gitcoin's done a lot of great for us on that front. Sponsors helped with that, but like I think we need to be creative about how to get other folks in the community who have a vested interest or care about TE, but also like the grantees themselves doing some of the boosting work. And then I think also at the end, I was just focused more on the communication side of it. I think we do need to do a better job of like tooting our horn and talking about the impact that this program has. I will hand it over to you, Nate, if you're ready.
Yeah, for sure. The two big things that jump out to me are, well, the first one is timing. I know that it seems like we can be prepared, but it's also that we get very little forewarning about when the round is going to start, the exact dates, and being able to plan around that with a small time period. And then during the round, I feel like it's a very short time period to actually promote 20 projects to get the attention that everybody deserves. And I know that the trade-off that we choose to have is like, we decide to host our round during the Get Going grant rounds because we get all of the attention of the entire public good space, which is great. But on the flip side of that is that we're competing with a bunch of different operating rounds, and we're subject to the time constraints that were been placed on the Gitcoin grant round. And so I would like to see maybe the exploration of not doing it during that time, and maybe say, okay, let's see how many donations we actually receive without doing it during the Gitcoin grant round, and see if we could actually extend the donation period for a little bit longer, to extend the amount of time projects have to apply to create quality applications. I think that's the big one that stands out to me. And then the second one is the review process for grantees. You mentioned it, Gideon. Like there's no reason anybody should be walking away with 6 or 7K and they haven't contacted, they haven't engaged with the TEC at one point in time. I think that's crazy to me. There should be some form of engagement outside of your application with the TEC if you want to be a part of our grant round. So yeah, those are the two big things that jump out to me, and I'll just leave it at that, and I'll pass it over to you, Bear.
Yeah, I also agree with everything that has been said. For me, also, those were probably the two main things, like planning, timing before the round, trying to do as many things as we can in advance, and also making sure that we are able to think more about the round in a holistic way, in a sense that we consider all the bits and pieces that the round involves, and make sure that we can take care of them, or that at least we know who's going to take care of what, like having someone assigned to each of these responsibilities. Um, I think that'd be important, and that'd be something we could do as part of the planning stage with a lot of time, in advance. The other thing, yes, I completely agree on regards with the review process. The criteria that we have in place, I think has to change. I think we should be focusing more on this idea of quality projects than quantity of projects. I think if we were to look at a round of, just to say a number of 5 projects, but like super really um, impactful projects that have proven their value and that we know that they are generating an impact. I think that'd be way better than having 20 projects that we're not sure how they got there and how are they actually going to use those funds, right? So trying to focus more on the quality side of things. I think that'd be really important. And the third point that I probably add to the conversation would be just on this that we're doing, having more of these type of reflection periods, of doing some more of the retrospective after every round, or even in a regular basis, to try to think about the where we want to take this grants program in the future, how it fits with our overall strategy and all the other different initiatives that we have in place, just to make sure that they all complement each other and that they are not that this QF round is not just isolated and in its own world, right? So I think a lot of this comes from these retrospectives, and to be able to take the time to stop from doing and to actually be able to think about where we want to take things going forward. And also that includes improving our processes, improving our playbooks, improving our roles, and that will only just translate into a better round next time that we execute on it. Yeah, that'd be that for me. Pass it to you, Isaac.
Sure, yeah. I do have some comments, but I think the time is more important. Just want to make sure, is everyone fine with going over the hour a bit? Because if not, we should probably move on.
Oh, I'm fine. I mean, this is important. Really critical for other decisions, so I don't have a problem. But depends on the others too.
I'm good. Probably not like, maybe like 30 minutes cap or something.
Same
Okay.
for me. I'm good for 30 over.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Hi, by the way, Sean. Just in case, I'm not sharing screen, but the Figma board is on the voice channel chat. Is the same Figma board we use for all the retrospectives. In case you wanna, just jump in. Um.
Sweet. Thank you.
And I guess my comments for what needs to be improved. I think there's of course a lot of things Gitcoin themselves could improve, as in timing and all that. But truth to be told, at the end of the day, it's our responsibility. So, and most of the content, in a lot of senses, is repeated. Like we recycle a lot of content. So I think there's a lot of work we can have done in advance. Um, um, and I don't know. That's that. Um, at least for the pre-round. Um, there's something I've said a few times. I think now there's clearly no time in between rounds. Like as soon as we finish one, we should start the next one. Because we usually finish a round, then look away from the program to do some other stuff, and then we run against the clock whenever Geekon formally announces a date. and that causes some issues, I guess, with Outround. I do agree with what you said, Gideon, of the quality of grantees. Um, I think the use of the advisory group for grants was good, but to some extent, I don't think they should be. I don't think they should. I think we should simplify even more the qualification process, and they probably shouldn't be involved because the people in that group are people with very little time and all that, and coordination efforts are very high with them. Um, so it makes it very complex. Plus, in talks with them, we moved a few things in the criteria, and also with the sponsors, with having to change chains. Me going to the connect and all that, and some discussions I had with Tam and other members of the advisory, we decided to go like hyper relaxed on the criteria. Not necessarily my style, I guess, but not terrible either. I just probably wouldn't do it again that way. Then during the round, I think during the round, I don't think I have as much insight in general because usually during the round, I take it easier, I guess, or at least my role is not as prominent. And during the round, we more than anything have content, and I'm not that close to content usually. Um, but again, similar to my other comment, I think most of the content is recycled, so I think we can make a better job in just having stuff actually ready. Um, and then post round, it has always been a bit complicated because we have to learn a lot. We depend on Gitcoin to do the analysis, yada yada yada. Seems like they delivered the analysis fairly quickly this round. I wasn't expecting it that soon.
I should clarify that, Isaac. I think you're referring to the data we got from Umar, which I believe is intended to be experimental.
Okay.
So I wouldn't call those official results. He said he wanted some feedback on that data actually, and I just told him what I thought about it, and then he said, "Cool, I'm probably going to send you one more iteration." So it's
Okay.
although we do have, if we look at the now that I say this out loud, if we look at the quadratic funding squelched column in that data set, that actually probably won't change. So we could consider those results now that I think of it. I just wanted to clarify that.
Cool. Thanks. I wasn't sure. I thought the data was final. Um, but well, yeah. The post round is always a bit clunky, I guess. And also, to be honest, I think people know about this, but I've always been fairly critic of using TC as the payout token. It's like not terrible. It's not like I'm fully opposed to it, but I still don't believe it's optimal. So just I probably, as long as I'm involved in any conversation with this grants program, I will probably bring that up. And same with Tunable QF. These comments, like, it doesn't mean we have to stop doing anything, but it's just, I think it's important to always consider how viable or how really good are these things. We have invested quite a bit in TQF, and that's good, and everyone has been very positive about the Tunable QF. But we should always be a skeptic, not to fall in love with anything, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Again, not to say it doesn't, just to have it in mind. And last thing is also communications, which I believe communication is really a part of every single part of the grants chain, I guess. And we in general can do a better job with communications. especially now that we have yet another stakeholder with the sponsors that we have to communicate, and so there's a lot of we have to take care of a lot of things in the front of communications in different manners because not everyone cares about the same. With that, I'm not sure who's left. I know it's Sean, but so I'll just pass it over to you, Sean.
Sweet,
Well,
thanks, Isaac.
just in case we are in the stop question right now, but if you want to add something quick about the continue, I think that's also fair.
Great. Yeah, I jumped in, so I didn't know we had the Figma, so I just started writing notes in a document, which is nice to have in front of me as well, and I'll share those after. Mostly reflecting on what I've heard since I jumped in, and something I would like to propose as a consideration. I think there is a thread that can be pulled out from what everyone was talking about, and it is the idea of, well, Isaac, you said it directly. It's that there's no time between rounds. Like we shouldn't do other things between rounds. Like as soon as one round starts, we're into the next round. And I think that's a great idea to complete the playbook. There's never any downtime in the playbook, right? It's all time is like described through the playbook. So this got me thinking about rethinking our model on this funding program, thinking about rounds as connected. So we do, of course, have recurring projects, and we can put, I think, more focus onto that. We could assume that if we have a great project, we can assume it's going to be recurring. Say like CAD, for example, is probably the best example. I think I'm a huge supporter of BCRG. I'm biased because I'm on the team. But there's a few. There's a handful that things like the Academy or CAD GPT, things we can support, really high quality projects. We should consider them as recurring. And then we have I think Bear said, go for 5 really high quality projects. So we can have a ranked list or our internal board of the 5 projects that we think are the highest quality, and we can continuously adjust our perspective by how the donations come in. Ultimately, it's not a seize of control by the coordination team by curating exactly what projects are in the rounds, because ultimately the funding is still open to donors. It's just that qualification process that is also a thread I heard everyone, I think, in this call talk about. So proposing a few ways of shifting our paradigm of how we see the rounds, thinking of them as more continuous. And then just reflecting on what I heard from you guys, which is really high quality projects, tune up the criteria, and no downtime behind rounds. And then tunable QF is a whole nother topic that I could go deep into. And we have 30 minutes left on this call, so we might want to time capsule that. Or there's also a TQF session on Thursday as well.
Cool. Yeah. Maybe if there's some time left, we can just open up the discussion to other things. Now maybe it's worth to jump onto the last question. Just to make sure, did everyone go on this one? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm assuming that's a yes. Let's go to the last question. So, Sean, what we've been doing on this retro is we divided the questions in three sections, like pre-round, during the round, and post-round.
Oh,
So we
cool.
have 4 minutes to fill Well, let me actually just move this out of the way. We have 4 minutes for each section, so 4 minutes for pre, 4 minutes for during, and 4 minutes for post, and then we just have a few minutes of discussion. And I'm starting the timer for this one now. Okay, we're done with this first one. Seems like people have been just writing a lot, so I'll just put like another 8 minutes, which is the complete time, and we can fill whatever section we want. Looks like we are on decision ready. Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Looks like no one is ready. So maybe let's jump on to the discussion. I won't put the timer now. We can just open the floor in chat. If anyone wants to start, feel free to.
I'll jump in. Since I was late, I'll have to make up for it. So I kind of feel like going through a lot. I think they're all connected, and it kind of paints a story. So I think if I can, I'll just kind of start to read out all of them, and then we can have a discussion from there. So pre-round, require all applicants to participate in a verbal articulation of their project and the purpose of their grant funds as part of the application process. Actually, I probably don't need to read them all out. Y'all probably read most of them in your head already, now that I think of it. But I really enjoyed how I see them as quite connected. So I'll bring it back to I love this idea of it's a continuous process. The playbook never ends. There's a chapter for every season of the year. I like to, again, I'm kind of for the paradigm shift concept today is think of this as 100,000 USD annual funding. And that'll help us, I think, going into the new years with where we're at right now chronologically. We have 100,000 USD to fund TE public goods in 2024. And how do we want to do that? And then other than that, I think a lot of these are really tuning up operational process. It's like stuff we're already doing, but tuning it up at every section and also just laying it out on the board here, pre, during, and post round. I think this is a really good map with a lot of these stickies. And then there's some that are more specific and some that are more radical. I think Bear posted this, host our own round outside of Gitcoin grants. That's super interesting. I don't know what resources that would require, but things that we can open up more discussions on. And then I put in the sort of TQF life cycle into here as well. So pre-round, parameter selection for TQF, what kind of boosts are we going to give? And that can be informed by the previous rounds. And also back to this concept of thinking of rounds as connected. So we have TEGR 1, 2, and 3. And we can optionally look at those. Given how the data is, we can consider it one big round. We basically have this giant set of donations. And that set of donations can be segmented into 3 rounds. But we could treat it as one big bunch as well. And we can think of the aggregate set of projects and of donors. But the projects one is super interesting. And thinking of that as a ranked list where we have inputs from the coordination team, from TEC advice process, and from the donors, ultimately, to curate this ranked list of how funds are distributed throughout the year. During the round, I think is a good time for TQF to have a development sprint because it's pretty much locked in. I mean, there's nothing really to do with the app during the round. It's more pre and post. So development sprint while the round is live, and then post round is I was thinking TCAN review of funding results. I guess that's the one I wrote out, which is TQF is a good interface to viewing the funding results, the donation results, the tunable part, the boosts, how they're applied and how they're derived. So I think having a review with TCAN to see the funding outcomes every round before the funds are distributed would be great. Yeah, I'll hand it over to whoever wants to jump in.
I'll jump in. Thanks, Sean. Those are really interesting. Yeah. And I want to build on something that you just said. I think it's really interesting to think about sprints and think like, what would it take to actually divvy this up into, like 3 or 4 sprints, so that we've got in the pre, we've got 2 sprints, 1 month in advance. Things just start to gel as we feel the round approaching, and we know exactly what we have to do in those 4 weeks. And then the round itself is 2 weeks, right? So the operating is 1 sprint, and then the post is, probably 1 or 2 sprints, probably 2 sprints. But we're doing like different things. We're like processing the round, but then we're also like getting stuff in place for the next round, right? I think it's really interesting to think about this as sprint. I'm just kind of echoing what you said, Sean, and putting some more points on it. And then the other thing, I think, the big theme that I'm seeing in this is like, hey, let's get more creative about how we think about these rounds. We've done a great job of proving ourselves on Gitcoin. One of the ideas I really like, and this kind of came out in the conversation Bear and Nate and I were having yesterday, is like, well, what about all of these ecosystem development grants that are out there that are targeted at specific chains, and over this next year, we could actually partner with OP, with Optimism, in running around that's dedicated to building TE on their ecosystem, like really targeting, helping various dApps or the chain itself, or it could be lots of different things, research or stuff that is specifically aimed at the ecosystem. So I think that's pretty cool. We could run it on Giveth or Allo, but do some experiments that are off of the kind of the quarterly Gitcoin pace, just to experiment. And then also things like, I think it'd be really interesting to look at like a round that is really focused on a particular area, like CAD. And I also like this idea that Griff has been floating, and I think we've been talking about for a while, which is, you basically take the top performers in the previous round, and maybe it's like every other round you dedicate to like the best performers, and you use that as a way to get kind of like a second round of like slightly bigger funding. Some of the stuff, by the way, is in this incubation plan that I'm still working on and plan to roll out, like throw out to you guys next week for feedback. But yeah, it's cool to see some of the stuff. I will hand it over to Bear.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I also echo everything that has been said. I think it's also really interesting and a good habit. I think Sean wrote this note about thinking of the program with this idea of having 100K annually for funding and distributing. So having this mindset of trying to think about initiatives and projects more in a medium or long term of at least a year, I think that's really interesting approach. And that I think would allow us to also be able to plan in advance, not just for the upcoming round, but for the upcoming year and all the different rounds that we would like to have, let's say in 2024, and that also allows us to again, the other thing that came up a lot here in regards with creativity, right, and trying to come up with innovative formats, or changing the focus of the rounds, or playing around with matching pool amounts, timelines, doing it with Gitcoin, doing it without Gitcoin, targeting different audiences for different type of projects. I think there's a lot of things we could start exploring. I don't think there's any constraint or any reason why we should not start playing around with all of these different variables. I think on the contrary, it could probably bring a lot of benefits. And the other thing is that I think we can also start looking at some other grant programs that are out there that are already successful. even, I mean, I think there's a lot of great examples in the Web3 space, but maybe even if they're not part of the Web3 space, if we can think about successful grant programs and just look at how they function, what's the type of structures, what's the type of processes that they use. I think that could also be really insightful for us, for even to try to replicate those programs, or just at least to take some ideas from them. Like for example, the non-focus and the open source software program that was just recently happening. I really like that. I really like that. I really liked how they handle their application process. It was way more strict than ours. It was more rigorous, and there was like these commitments, right, that projects had to do in regards with delivering certain things after, I think it was like a 3-month period, working period, where they would have to work on their projects and deliver some results. So there's like some accountability mechanism for projects, and I think that was great. So and at the same time, I think the matching pool from that program, it wasn't also that big. So I don't think it's a matter of how big it's our matching pool, but it's how will we use the those funds, you know, and if we're able to provide more structure, more um, um, to be more rigorous in a way, we in general with the whole program. I think that could bring a lot of value, a lot of quality projects, and a lot of positive results. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it at that, and I'll pass it to you, Nate.
Yeah, I like a lot of the ideas that were shared so far. I really do like. Maybe it's just talking to Sean, but just feeling like looking at things from a radical perspective, you know, and kind of just looking at what the grants program is, what it should be, and you know, looking at it from the perspective of like, do we really see this as like a grant round, like an event that we hold, or are we looking at this like it's going to be a product? You know, we're setting the foundations for building a product that will sustain funding for some of these really important token engineering projects perpetually. And so where they're not having to apply, you know, there's some projects out there who are like, you know, staples in the token engineering field. I think CAD and even Token Spice would be among those. And like, what would it look like if we were to say, okay, instead of having a periodic grant round, we say here's some projects that qualify for perpetual funding, you know, small amounts of funding throughout the year, each year, and we just provide that for them. And looking at our bonding curve as an engine for providing that funding for these types of projects. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we can explore, and I think that, you know, having consensus, like I said before, on what it's going to look like is very, very important for all of us to do as we continue to build it moving forward. But I think there's a lot of ideas and things we should definitely experiment with. I'm not sure, like with a Gitcoin grant round outside of the Gitcoin grant round, I think we can use still the grant protocol. It just we would set our own, you know, our own time for it, and that would be really interesting to do. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Um, well, we had at 30 minutes. I can stay for 5 more. I think I'm the only one left, anyways. But you know, again, I wanted to respect everyone's time. Um, and I don't know. I guess for me, really, there's some good ideas here. Um, I think in general, the most important things for the grants program, especially while being with Gitcoin, or and with Gitcoin, I mean precisely using the Gitcoin platform, not necessarily doing it as a round as part of the GG series. I think the most important things are um, first, simplicity. Like I'm looking at some ideas that sound interesting, but complicate stuff for applicants, for example, and for ourselves to execute. And the other thing is sustainability. Like I think now is we have proven we can deliver. Of course, we can be better, whatever. But again, we are the only round so far um, that has always been present in Gitcoin. That has always been like the very same day Gitcoin opens, announces and opens the door. We've always been there, and I think being able to articulate that effort is something um, everyone should in theory respect. And I'm talking about sponsors, and at the same time I think there's every time I speak with someone about token engineering, they everyone sort of gets the importance. So I think even if it's not always as easy, I know, but I think we can really stop spending money from the common pool, and we can even probably um, um, survive doing Gitcoin rounds. Like the budget of the team is fairly low, and most I'm not really sure how QF grant rounds work, but for events, for example, I'm helping a team that does a big event here in Latin America, Ethereum event, and it's like you have a budget for expenses and like costs, and every other sponsorship that goes through that goes beyond that is profit. So if we ever get to a point where if the target is 50K, for example, and we get 60K, that's 10K, which is almost the entire budget of the team for a month. Um, things like that, right? And there's one open question there, I guess. Maybe we've talked a lot about doing the rounds as like not being part of the GG series, but maybe that's actually desirable for sponsors. Those are things that we have to have in mind. And lastly, also sort of in line with sponsors, one thing that I want to see as soon as possible is sort of some form of request for proposals. That's something that Patty brought up as part of one of the sessions with the advisory group, and I thought that was quite genius. It's like mm, if if we were to offer sponsors the ability to have recommendations or even to add a bonus for projects that met certain requests for proposals, that's a win-win for everyone because we make the round more attractive to sponsors. The sponsors potentially get solved some of the issues they have, maybe venture capital and big funds that also like most VCs offer token engineering services to the projects to make sure they perform as good as possible, and I'm pretty sure they have issues all the time, so we may be one solution to those issues. And on the other hand, for people wanting to work, we offer them ideas of what to work on. And it should be fairly low effort. It's just a few lines of ideas of part of requests of proposals. I think that's something very interesting. And yeah, at this point, I'm just rambling. I think simplicity and making the run as attractive as possible for sponsors is probably the main things we should be looking for in to improve on the run next year, on the program next year. With that, I'm the last one. I was the last one, I believe. Not sure if anyone wants to add anything else, or if we should wrap it up here.
I'm all for wrapping it up. So I will just say that we didn't get to the question of whether we should do the next round, given our resource questions right now. So we just have to find a time over this next week, I would say, to try to sort that out. And I don't know what's going to be the best format for that. Maybe we can use the next Tuesday call to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. The grants program is our most important project, and that's the meeting to talk about things like that. So makes sense to spend a bunch of time on it. Although we probably have some more important topics with immigration of that. But yeah. Cool. Well, I'll just open the floor quickly for any closing comments, and if not, we can wrap it up. 5, 4.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks. I am posting a link. I wrote notes, so I just made a doc in
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Notion, so I've shared that. And it just links to
Awesome.
the Figma, and then I posted my notes below it. And there's cool snippets there. I was thinking, Gideon, you might want to use this for your work on the incubator concept. And a lot of these notes can just be piped into like GPT to come up with some cool concepts and to organize some of the main themes, I think.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Cool. Well, I think we can wrap it up here. Thanks, everyone, and I'll catch you guys later.
Thank
Bye.
you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. It was really
Thanks,
good.
Isaac.
Thank you. Have a good day.